Welcome to Horror Face Off. I am your host, Jason. So you like to laugh and you like to be scared. Well, that is exactly what these movies are for. We have Shaun of the Dead versus Cabin in the Woods on this episode of Horror Face Off. On this episode, your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, actress and author Lilith, actress Sophie, horror fan Ty, horror fan Tony. They join the Horror Face-Off slasher Leighanne and me, your host, Jason. We take two horror films and match them up against each other. Using specific categories, the show's fearless panelists dissect every bone-chilling detail. In the end, the film that has the most category points wins Horror Face-Off. But the panel needs to think fast, for they only have a limited time to make their case. If they take too long, they will be killed. Hello everybody, welcome to Horror Face-Off, and today on this show we have comedy horror. We have Shaun of the Dead versus Cabin in the Woods, and we have an awesome panel as usual to break it all down. And just before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the Kings of Horror YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow Horror Face Off on Instagram. And with that, we're gonna cut to our panelists, and we will start off with Uncle Pete.
Hey, I'm Uncle Pete. You can find me on YouTube under Your Friendly Neighborhood Uncle Pete. I talk about the stupid decisions people make in horror movies. And you can find me in the last Amityville movie, streaming right now.
Nice. Tony Terror.
I'm Tony Terror. Happy to be here. I don't have a YouTube channel, although I do have posted a video that has over 21,000 views. And it's the direction in which water drains in Australia.
Riveting start, Tony. All right, Ty, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm Ty Winsborough. I have my drink Instagram page, drink_2_wins, and I'll be having my two drinks you'll see me sipping, my Shaun of the Dead and Cabin in the Woods.
You died.
Dead? Oh wow, look at that, dead
You're
already,
dead.
but drinking game is strong. All right, Lilith.
Hi, my name is Lilith. My Instagram is just lilith.fury. I am currently making a horror movie that's going to start filming in October.
Nice. And new to the show, Sophie.
Hi, I'm Sophie Gyberson. I'm on Instagram as SophGybs. I'm private. Give it a go. Deadlocked on Amazon Prime. Streaming for free. If you like B-level horror movies.
Awesome.
$10,000.
Okay. All right. So we met all our panelists, and now it's time to get down to business. We are going to start off with plot. And for this, we're going to start off with the crafty veteran, Uncle Pete.
Ooh, this one was one of the easier categories, and you got Cabin in the Woods. That's the plot right there. You got the secret society that sacrifices people to please these ancient demons. Certain people have to die in order to please them. You got all these different monsters, all these different areas around this world, these satellite stations. So much going on. You can watch this movie multiple times and pick up all these little different aspects. Shaun of the Dead is good. It's like vanilla ice cream. Vanilla ice cream is great. It's familiar. Cabin in the Woods is like one of those cone bowls from Cold Stone. You got caramel, marshmallow, sprinkles, Twix, cherries, and everything. So it's just one whole yummy package with the plot the way it's developed.
That's the cherry on top.
Yes.
Nice job. All right. So we move on to Tony.
Yeah, so Shaun of the Dead, I love it. Everyone who knows me knows that's one of my favorite films, but I have to give it to Cabin in the Woods because there is that mystery there that, you know, you think you've seen this movie before, but there's all this stuff that happens during the movie that just kind of puts you on edge and you just want to ask, what's going to happen next? What's going on here, right? So it's that mystery that kind of gives a little bit more flavor, and so I'll have to give it to Cabin in the Woods.
All right. Ty, do you think you got the hang of it?
Yeah, so far. So I'm gonna have to agree with everyone else and jump on the Cabin in the Woods train. Shaun of the Dead, as much as I love it, Cabin in the Woods, it has like the end of the world, you got to sacrifice people, things like that. Where Shaun of the Dead, it's just people that are similar to your friends surviving a zombie apocalypse. So definitely going with Cabin in the Woods on this one.
All right. Lilith, you're up.
Cabin in the Woods, because it really hadn't been done before, presented a story behind all stories that nightmares come from. It gave a reason for all the horror tropes and archetypes, plus the idea that someone could be manipulating your behavior behind the scenes in order to sacrifice you is kind of a cool concept.
Okay, and Sophie.
All right, I think Shaun is very simple by design, and they're both kind of unique in that way because I feel like Cabin in the Woods is very intentionally twisty and turny. And I'm going to agree with everybody and go with Cabin in the Woods, but I'm going to fight for Shaun a little bit because kind of what you're getting right off the bat, but I think it's still a really unique concept in that there's not a lot of movies that are how you and your friends would handle something like this. Usually there's like a tough guy and like different archetypes and tropes, but I think they subvert it in a sense as well by it just being a couple of regular people doing what you would do if you're about to get eaten. Whereas Cabin in the Woods, I think, does that as well because they do have the more specifically defined archetypes. But yeah, I'm still going to go with Cabin in the Woods because of the layers of twistiness.
Kill! You should have dragged it on, you would have lived.
It's okay. It's okay. She's already a fan favorite. Okay, so that's round one in the books, and Shaun of the Dead really has a lot of work to do to get back into it, but we've seen it happen before. We will move on to setting, and for setting, we are going to start with Lilith.
Cabin in the Woods. While I love the way that Shaun of the Dead mirrored the pre- and post-zombie apocalyptic London, from the shops to climbing the girlfriend's window to going to the Winchester, it can't really beat the whole classic horror scenery of a cabin in the woods, especially because there's like this invisible force field around it, pheromone dispensers, access to underground group controlling the horror narrative, and elder gods.
All right. Tony.
Pheromone dispensers. I like that. I have to give this one to Shaun of the Dead because I like the fact that it takes place in London, but like it doesn't use any of the typical cliche London landmarks to kind of show you that they're in that city, right? It's like kind of everyday type of city setting that anyone would be part of if you live in the city. Whereas Cabin in the Woods, although I love the the kind of forest theme of, with a rundown cabin, I like the fact that when you're stuck in a city, as most of us are.
We'll never know what you like, Tony. All right, Ty, you're up.
Setting, I'm going to have to go with Shaun of the Dead on this one. Like what Tony was saying, where it's like not all the typical London landmarks, but it has like the fun little locations of the girlfriend's house, his apartment, the backyard, even that little scene, jumping over the fences, things like that, like fun little things that are just, I guess, like very different than what you would primarily see in horror movies. So I'm gonna have to go with Shaun of the Dead on this one.
All right. Okay. Sophie.
All right, Cabin in the Woods, the setting is the name, and it's just fantastic because that elevator scene where it drops down and it goes into the deep layers beyond. I love it. I am going to give it to that. But then again, with Shaun of the Dead, there's Apartment with the Work, and of course the Winchester, which I feel like the pinnacle scene takes place, the bar, and the setting is really a living part of it in both of them. I don't know, honestly, it's hard because I love like a droll, gray British landscape, and I love the contrast of these murders and these sort of farcical, fantastical situations happening in an electronics store. But I will still give it to Cabin in the Woods because of the elevator and the tiny glass boxes, and because it's the name of the movie. And I like it when they do that.
Kill!
she keeps like inching her way to a kill. You could have saved yourself.
Start with disaster.
All right, it's okay. It's okay. So that again, like I said, we favor the dead here. All right, so let's end the round off with Uncle Pete.
I do. I got to tip my hat to Shaun of the Dead because, like Sophie said, I love that drab British landscape because it's something different as far as zombie movies. But the setting in Cabin in the Woods is just like chef's kiss. The cabin immediately reminded me of The Evil Dead without being derivative, and when a movie can remind me of The Evil Dead, that's a good thing. Then you got the basement alone. I could spend hours in the basement looking at all these little trinkets and everything. Secret headquarters, all these cabinets with all these cells with all these different monsters all over the place. All these satellites across the world. It's just so much to take in. You can watch the movie again and again, picking up on things you missed back and forth. Much as I like the British landscape, yeah, Cabin in the Woods has got setting.
Nice. I like everybody kind of rambling at the end and walking right into the death. Okay, so after 2 rounds, it looks like Shaun of the Dead kind of chipped away a little bit, but we move on to filmmaking. And just a reminder to everybody watching, and of course our new panelist, filmmaking is where we encompass music, cinematography, direction, and all that. So you can go any direction you want with that. And for starters, we'll go with Ty.
So for this one, filmmaking, I'm gonna have to go with Cabin in the Woods. I just love like the dark like aesthetic off of it, how like eerie, like just like the camera placement on some of the shots, things like that. Even though Shaun of the Dead, the music it gets me every time watching it, and that like aspect of it, and the British scenery and things like that. It's like near and dear to my heart. Cabin in the Woods on this one.
All right. Sophie.
I feel like Shaun of the Dead has a really indicative style, and there's a couple of really sick tracking shots, and I feel like they did more with what they had, whereas Cabin in the Woods was a big budget, and it's not shot like an indie feature, and I feel like Shaun of the Dead, the music, the acting is so fantastic. I'm going to give it to Shaun of the Dead, maybe just because I'm feeling contrarian, and because I'm a little pissed at Joss Whedon for who he is as a person, but I do love his body of work. Really great films, but yeah, I'm going to give it to Shaun of the Dead.
Okay. Ulterior motives are surfacing. Okay, Lilith.
Shaun of the Dead. I loved the comparison shots, the panning out to reveal the zombie in the living room because they didn't close the door, or the stepdad suddenly having turned into a zombie, all the overly dramatic close-ups, the silhouette of the zombie in the back door, and that scene where they're just like hitting with pull cues to Queen. Loved it.
All right. Uncle Pete.
Edgar Wright's a lovely filmmaker, and I got to give him some credit here because this movie had some nice moments of heart and emotion, something you don't see too often in some zombie flicks. But I got to give the edge to Cabin in the Woods because of the pacing in that movie is just so wonderful. It starts when you see that spy, agent guy on top of the roof, and he's calling it in. Okay, then you get the Harbinger. Then the bird smashes into this force field. You get the cabin, and just the way that's shot, and the way all the cells are shot with all the monsters in them, and the monsters at the end. It's just, the pacing is just so, it builds and it builds, and it never lets go of you till that holy crap ending, and we'll get there. But yeah.
Speaking of a holy crap ending, you're dead. All right, Tony.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about pacing, because I think that's what kind of keeps you on edge, like you were saying, like just that wanting to understand like what's going on, right? Like you don't know until like near the end. However, like I love Edgar Wright films. Like I don't think I've seen a bad one that he's made, and this one I love. How there's so much foreshadowing and picking and choosing, from other movies of the same genre. I'll have to give this one to Shaun of the Dead, and they're using a lot of quotes as well from other movies that and you recognize, right? We're coming to get you, Barbara. So Shaun of the Dead it is.
That would have been a kill.
Yeah, you kind of cut out there for a little bit, so let's just kill him.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah,
right.
we don't take kindly to technical difficulties on this show. All right. Okay, so we move on to characters. And for this one, we will start off with Lilith.
Shaun of the Dead. Because while I did like Marty in the beginning, and I thought he was funny. I think he's overall a really terrible person. And the rest of the cast was just one-dimensional tropes. With Shaun of the Dead, you at least had the loving mom, the distant stepfather who actually cared, the nice guy lurking friend. The bromance was sweet, and despite being stereotypical losers, they're brave and loyal and real.
All right. Well, speaking of bromance, I sense one coming on, Ty, so let's have at it.
So for this one, I'm going with Shaun of the Dead. You have all the fun characters, the ones that like remind you of your friends, things like that, and people you know. The mom, the stepdad, and like going through the city, and then like the bar scene where you have like the unique little characters that they slightly introduce, but at the same time, like you have Ed and Shaun, and it just goes down that route. So yeah, definitely the characters for Shaun of the Dead on this one.
All right, but well said. Okay, so Tony, you're up.
Yeah, I'll have to give this one to Shaun of the Dead. I mean, it's a slacker who really has no clue. Like the world is falling down around him, and he just like has no idea that that's happening. Completely directionless. But the equivalent of the stoner, for example, Ed versus Marty, I'd have to give it to Ed because he's just a lot funnier, and his use of no words or bathroom words in the beginning of the movie just like really kicks it off and lets you know what kind of movie it's going to be, right? So yeah, I'll have to give this one to Shaun of the Dead for sure.
All right, Sophie, you ready?
I think I'm actually going to give this one to Cabin in the Woods because of the juxtaposition of the characters in the office space underground and that opening scene where they're just discussing work life or driving through the golf cart, sipping the coffee cup, and then that immediate cut. And I think I really I wish they had gone a little bit more into the subversion of the tropes because of like the lead characters, because I know they were doing the archetypes, and I wish they would have gone a little bit like, she's like, I'm a PhD or I'm a pre-med. She's like, virgin, not so much. I love that. I do feel like in Shaun of the Dead, they are real people, but for me, it's a little bit more fun in Cabin in the Woods because I like the little secret underside that people have. In Shaun of the Dead, I feel like everybody's pretty much...
Yep, you do.
Dead people don't talk. There's your next T-shirt, man. Yeah. All right. It seems like it's been a long time since we've talked to Uncle Pete, but let's do it now.
Giving this one to Shaun of the Dead mainly because I can relate to him. I'm way too far not good looking enough to relate to Kurt, Holden, or Marty. I imagine it. I can relate to Shaun. He's like your regular dude. He's in love. Everyone's too attractive in Cabin in the Woods, that main cast. For me, relatability is important in a film. I can give that film much more of my investment if I can relate to Shaun. I got much more in common with Shaun than I do Kurt, Holden, and Marty and those two good-looking people. Shaun's a regular dude, and he's just trying to, he loves his girl. He just doesn't want to be a loser, and he's the hapless hero that becomes a hero. I love that underdog story.
I don't like heroes or underdogs, so you're dead.
Especially when they ramble on. All right, so we're moving right along, and I think Shaun of the Dead got itself back into this matchup. So we will move on now with special effects, and for this one, this is actually a debut category for this show. We've never done this before, and some movies just do not call for it. Some it's mandatory, and here I think it's kind of maybe on the fence a little bit. We'll see. We're going to start off with Sophie.
I will take the shittiest practical effects over the best VFX, but I gotta give it to the mermaid in Cabin in the Woods, and because of all of the creature work, and I think there's gotta be masks, there's gotta be latex, there's gotta be like so much painting going on in that set, and I gotta give it to Cabin in the Woods. But I do really like what they did with like the blood in Shaun of the Dead. It was a little campy, and it felt almost like a graphic novel with the way it was kind of shot and set up and the redness of the blood, but I gotta give it to Cabin in the Woods because it's what went into that. And I mean, yeah, like the pheromone mists, the setting, all of it, it's great.
Yeah.
And the down.
Pheromones should have been the secret word. That's an inside joke that plays terribly on a YouTube show, but anyways, we're sticking with it. All right, Uncle Pete.
Cabin in the Woods. I've seen zombie effects. Cabin in the Woods. So much attention to detail to all these different monsters. You had and all of them paying homage to all these other villains, and throughout history, like someone kind of like Jason, like Maya Morris, these ghosts. There's aliens, it's just attention to detail to create all these different monsters, mixture of practical and CGI. You had a killer unicorn and the merman. It's so much fun to see that stuff. All these different monsters, there's so much to take in. Great mixture of practical and CGI.
All right. We will throw to Lilith.
Cabin in the Woods. I really love seeing the creatures come into reality. The unicorn, the ballerina girl with all the teeth, everything. I mean, it was amazing. And I really wish they had shown more of the monsters. I mean, the scene where Kurt rides a motorcycle into the giant grid was really funny and unexpected. And the bear trap on Jules was just brutal.
All right. Tony.
I think we can say that the merman is the unofficial mascot of this podcast, right? I thought that was really creative, right? It bites you and then spits out your blood out of its blowhole. I guess you're right. And I actually watched the special effects featurette for Cabin in the Woods, and there's just a lot of technical complexity, even just in creating the elevators with all the cubes, right? So and they were. And they went with the notion that they wanted to make it more use puppetry and real effects rather than CGI.
I was just like, Tony, your background looks like it's like an after school special kind of thing. Like you're delivering a message. No, it's something I noticed.
Blue and red lights. That's all.
All right. Okay, so Ty, you're up. We are on special effects.
So for special effects, I'm going to go with Cabin in the Woods. That one was a no-brainer. As much as I love some of the effects from Shaun of the Dead, such as the backyard scene where he pushes Mary and she falls and gets the hole in the stomach. The effects and Cabin in the Woods, it was hard to beat, especially in this category. You have all the monsters and the glass cases, and they're just rotating. You see all of them, all the effects, the costumes, and that they were in. My favorite was the saw face that person, or the cube. So
the knife scissors.
All right, so it's been around. Leighanne, we covered everybody, right? Everybody's okay. Making sure. All right, so we move on to another first on this show. We've never covered comedy, and it's only fitting since this is a comedy horror episode. So for this one, we'll start off with Ty.
Comedy, going with Shaun of the Dead. I love the scene that really gets me is when after Shaun gets broken up with and they go to the bar and they're drinking, and Ed's introducing all of the extra characters at the bar. They're having a good time, and then eventually the zombies banging on the window, and they're just yo, we're closed, and then they finally leave the bar singing, dancing, having a good time. You see the two people making out. Really one's getting eaten. That scene just really does it for me. Where Cabin in the Woods, it has its funny little moments, but Shaun of the Dead.
All right. We'll go to Uncle Pete.
Shaun of the Dead as well. This movie had many laugh out loud moments. It has that snarky, sarcastic Monty Python humor. May have dated myself with that one, but I think the trailer itself had more laughs than the entire Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods really didn't have too many laughs. It was more like holy shit moments, other than ha ha ha. But every time Shaun got frustrated, I laughed because I could relate to him. He loves his best friend, but his best friend's an idiot sometimes, and he gets frustrated, and you just feel that humor. Taking picture with the zombie, thinking that she's drunk. It's funny because they do things that like us weirdos would do in the same situation, just like doing off the wall stuff. I just find that hysterical.
Kill.
Ooh. Yeah, he dead. I hope your best friend doesn't watch the show because he's got an idiot for a best friend and I can relate. I think he did it in a different order, but I'm sure he'll be able to piece it together.
That's good.
All right, so let's go on to Lilith.
I'm going to have to go with Shaun of the Dead. I mean, it somehow managed to be both relatable and absurd at the same time. I think Simon Pegg and Nick Frost really deserve more credit. They covered the entire spectrum of humor, from dry humor to just over the top and goofy and just everything. And that's why it's one of my go-to comfort films.
All right. Tony, you're up.
Shaun of the Dead has to get a 2 severed thumbs up. It's hilarious, and just the way the characters have these mundane reactions to really outrageous situations, right? I think it's really funny. It's a movie that can make you laugh out loud no matter how many times you watch it. Whereas Cabin in the Woods is a little bit more, I guess clever in its humor, and it's a little bit more. I guess they're both dark, right? But Shaun of the Dead can make a scene where a guy's getting his guts ripped out and eaten and his limbs torn apart. They could turn that into a humor situation where everyone's laughing.
You can't just keep going. That's not how that works. Dead people don't just spit it out.
You guys are pissing Leighanne off tonight. I've never seen this before. She's vicious. All right.
Her blood.
Yeah. Hi, Sophie.
Hello. I think that Shaun of the Dead, I love a dry British wit. I think they're both quite dry, but I think Shaun of the Dead is a comedy, whereas Cabin in the Woods is horror with a little bit of comedy thrown in. I think if you're going outright laugh for laugh, Shaun of the Dead's got to win on this one. Simon Pegg is a master, and that's all I got to say about that.
All right, so we're moving on to the next category, which is Antagonist. And for all our fans in Italy, Antagonisto, as I've said before, the show is huge in Italy. Huge. It's a juggernaut. So for this one, we will throw to Tony.
All right, the Antagonist. So Shaun of the Dead, obviously it's the zombies, but I think it's also Shaun's unwillingness to grow up, right, and to be an adult, step out of his comfort zone and actually face the real life. Whereas in Cabin in the Woods, I guess it's the monster gods and everyone else who's involved in trying to placate the gods as well. I would have to give this one to and come up with this on the fly.
Kill.
Cabin in the Woods.
Well, we need to let him finish
I
now.
needed the answer.
Well, did you get it in?
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods.
All right. The suspense. All right, Uncle Pete.
By default, I kind of have to give it to Cabin in the Woods because, you have the zombies as the main antagonist. So Tony did have a good point as far as being Shaun's unwillingness to mature, but you got the ancient ones, that secret society, all those monsters down there. Every single one, it's antagonist in its own right in another horror movie, depending on what they would have picked in the basement. So you had all these antagonists on quick draw that you could have pulled on at any time, and any one of them would have been interesting just from when they were reading in that book and you seen everything. So, and then the ancient ones at the end, it was just way more dynamic and more fun.
All right, Sophie.
I feel like in Shaun of the Dead, the three major villains, as I see it, is zombies, capitalism, and sometimes Ed. And I also, yes, Sean's like unwillingness to grow up, but it's also the toxic friendship aspect of it. But I gotta give it to Cabin in the Woods because there's everybody downstairs. There is like the old gods, and also the idea that like hubris creates monsters and our need to make it bigger and better in reality show. When they say like, oh, remember when we could just like shove some virgins off a cliff and call it good? But it created this whole Ouroboros. It's like eating themselves to try and maintain the level of coolness of the kills that it eventually ends up killing humanity. And I think at the end they're both like toxic friendships. But Cabin in the Woods.
All right. Ty.
So for this one, it was after like the other good points that were all brought up, where like the antagonist for Shaun of the Dead is Shaun himself, the stepfather, Pete, the barkeep of the Winchester, things like that. But the easy go-to, the antagonist would be Cabin in the Woods, the secret cults, the ancient ones, like that was just like a no-brainer for kind of like this category. But I do appreciate like the little extras that Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for Leighanne to yell. All right. With that death, we move on to Lilith.
In Shaun of the Dead, Pete and David were the biggest antagonists over the zombies. I mean, while I'm glad David got taken out, I hate that Diane chose to follow him because she deserved better. But Cabin in the Woods wins because they literally had a top secret cabal working behind the scenes to put people in dangerous situations, making them act out of character so they can fit some kind of archetype while pretending to care about free will. Also, they could sacrifice them to literal monsters.
All right. Okay, so we made it through most of the categories. 2 left, and movie poster is up. And for this one, we will start off with Uncle Pete.
I had to put some thought into this one because a previous panel I was on, someone brought up, what poster would I want hanging on my wall? And I think Mia may have said that. And I was like, that's a good way to look at it. And looking at both of these, I'd rather have Cabin in the Woods poster on my wall because it's almost beautiful in its simplicity. Like you see this cabin, but okay, there's an upside down cabin underneath it. What the hell's going on with that movie? I know it's about a cabin in the woods, but it makes me intrigued. Shaun of the Dead kind of tells me everything you need to know. It's a zombie movie. It kind of looks comedic because with the weapons they're grounded. It's British. You know, it kind of tells you everything you're going to expect. Cabin is like just a little taste of ice cream before you get that big cold stone. You know, right.
There's been a lot of food references in these categories. It's actually, I think a lot of them are from you, Pete. And Mia's going to be flattered that even though she wasn't on this show, that her name still made it onto the show. So you scored some brownie points with her. All right, Tony, you look bored. Let's have at it.
Yeah, so Shaun of the Dead poster, just like Uncle Pete was saying, it's like it's British, but it's good, right? It's still very vanilla, like you know what you're gonna get. Where Cabin in the Woods, there's that mystery, right? It's like you know what a Cabin in the Woods movie is gonna be like. It's gonna like Evil Dead, right? But all of a sudden it's like changing shapes and there's a bit of upside down to it and it's floating. Like what's going on? It's that mystery again. So I'm gonna have to give this one to Cabin in the Woods.
All right, Lilith, what do you say?
Cabin in the Woods. I mean, it's spooky, ominous, has a Rubik's Cube type symbolism and all. It's just the perfect horror movie poster. It also kind of shows the house as being the focal point, as being the star, more so than any characters, which is true because they all come and go every year, replaced by new victims while the story stays the same.
All right. Sophie, you're up.
Visually, I prefer Cabin in the Woods. I love the nostalgia of Shaun of the Dead and how it has that sort of graphic pop art, not pop art, but like, yeah, it feels like a graphic novel again. But I don't really love the early 2000s, half black and white, half regular with the arms coming over. And I did, growing up, have a poster of Cabin in the Woods on the wall because I like the sort of monochromatic, eerie, spooky, graphic designy element of it. And the flip-flop house, a fun time.
All right, and to finish off the round, let's go to Ty.
All right, so for this one, movie posters are going to go with Cabin in the Woods. Shaun of the Dead, it was like pretty simple where you see the characters just like posted up right there, and then you see some of the unique zombies that you come across around the outside. But in Cabin in the Woods, it's like, yeah, it has the cabin right in the middle, but you see it kind of like rotating a little bit. That corresponds with the monsters that pop up or the ones that are going to pop up and how things change and things like that. So that one will definitely be a better one, like Uncle Pete said, to hang on the wall.
Go.
All right, so we are on to the final category, which is the ending. And for this, we will start off with Ty.
All right, so for the ending, this one's pretty simple. It was like an easy choice for me. Was Cabin in the Woods. The ancient ones ended the whole world. I mean, there's no really better ending than that. You don't really have to go to work anymore, things like that. So we're Cabin in the Woods. They all are Shaun of the Dead. They kind of survived, and you see the zombies are being incorporated into daily life again. So Cabin in the Woods, that was an easy one.
All right, Lilith.
Shaun of the Dead, because while it's sad that Ed died, their friendship still lives on, which is kind of sweet. And I also just really, 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 really hate the ending of Cabin in the Woods. Marty was a selfish piece of shit who chose to live an extra 3 minutes over saving the entire world. He literally justified his actions as something noble, that maybe the world needed to be wiped out and blah, 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 but he literally chose for babies, puppies, and all living beings to suffer horrible deaths. I mean, he was the villain of the movie, and he broke the horror trope because horror movies are supposed to end with the sun coming up and everything's okay, bringing hope. So he just all over the horror trope, and I didn't like that.
Ooh, that was close. All right, Sophie.
I disagree. I loved it. I love the selfishness. I love the nihilistic Breakfast Club fist through the ceiling of the world. I do love Shaun of the Dead because it is also so unexpected and it subverts the drama. I say subverts a lot today, but it's not homage. It subverts the zombie thing where they are being integrated into regular life, and I feel like the only thing that's really done that again has been Warm Bodies. Yeah, I have to go with Cabin in the Woods. I love it. I like that he sort of ended the world with a bang.
All right, that's a wrap on Sophie. So we will throw to Tony.
So yeah, I mean, Cabin in the Woods, who to say that? Yeah, Marty's the guy who gets to say whether the world ends or continues. I don't think that he had any right to do that, to be honest. And Shaun of the Dead, I feel like Shaun just ends up as lazy and directionless as he was in the beginning, right? Him and Liz are just sitting on the couch, doing nothing on a Sunday, right? And then he goes into the shed and plays video games again, right? So he really didn't make any progress at all in his life. So, right? I think,
no progress on your life, you're done.
Wow. Did you get his answer at least?
No.
Because I didn't know what the hell was going on.
I didn't either.
What's your answer, Tony?
What's your answer?
I'll have to give it to Shaun of the Dead.
All right. Uncle Pete, finish us off.
While the ending to Shaun of the Dead is sweet, I cannot beat the ending of Cabin in the Woods. That's my answer. Too often, evil is thwarted at the end of a horror movie. It's annoying to me. Here, note, the whole world is effed. Why? I know it's simplifying here. Just because somebody got high. If he never got high, he would have been susceptible. Because somebody got high, the whole world is effed. And then we get once the tropes of good winning and the sun coming up. Nope, the whole world is screwed. We get to hit the reset button. And it's one of the most memorable endings I've seen in the last 20 years. Just because of WTF you get from it.
All right. Well, that's the show. The votes are in, and Leighanne's going to be working hard with her calculator. And no, I dated myself. No, I'm just joking. I went for low hanging,
You
shameless.
did.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm
no,
a
no.
woman. I don't know math. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way. I mean, who uses a calculator nowadays? Anyways, so that's it for Cabin in the Woods versus Shaun of the Dead, and I'm kind of curious to know who won this one because I do felt that there was a lot of ebbs and flows for these films. So in the end, we will see what happens. But in the meantime, we'll throw to Leighanne, who looks eager and ready.
I was a little unsure too because there was some really close times. But I was actually surprised that there ended up being far and away a big change, and the winner of that one was Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods. Okay, yeah. So they started strong, but Shaun Dead was chipping away. But I think it kind of it started a little too slow. But that's just the way it goes. And speaking of the way it goes, that's it for this show. Our first comedy horror episode. There'll be more. Thank you to my splatter vixen, Leighanne. Thanks to the panelists for joining us. Appreciated having you all on the show and look forward to seeing you all again. Do not forget to subscribe to the Kings of Horror YouTube channel and watch shows. You can watch old shows on the Horror Slash channel. You can follow Horror Face Off on Instagram and be involved in all the fun stuff there, including your opportunity to pitch show ideas. So lots of fun stuff. We're going to see you again very soon. Until then, keep watching horror films, have fun, and so long.
On the next episode of Horror Face Off, it's a special Shark Week episode. Sharknado versus the Meg.